Hello. My name is Victoria. I am a transgender woman, and I'm going to be giving my response to this video titled Trans Women Aren't Women from a Detransitioner's Perspective. So I watched this video because it came up on my YouTube feed, and I was just curious, because you just see a lot of, to be frank, detransitioners in the news talking about how trans women aren't women. So I was interested to see a different perspective. I watched this video previously, and there are several things I disagree with in this video. So let's go ahead and go over it. I am going to increase the speed because I'm going to be honest, she repeats like a lot of her points over and over again. So right now I'm going to put it on 2 times until we get to the clips. She has 2 clips later in the video. For those, that will be normal speed.
Oh, hi. Hello. How's it going, everybody? I'm so horrifically undercaffeinated, but I'm still doing it. We're still making a video, making things, making content. Unfortunately. But hi. Hello. I have a video to make. I'm gonna try to keep it like short and sweet and to not ramble, but again, I make no guarantees. Anyways, my name is Ryan. You're an unfriendly neighborhood detransitioner. And I've been seeing things like a clip I'm about to show you. Like in my feed quite a lot. And I've been seeing like a few drastically differing opinions. And I refuse to believe that the majority of the people that I'm seeing online are either that ignorant or that bigoted. So making my take on it. But hopefully, hope this helps. that kind of clearing it up, right? Or at least putting my piece out there, right? My opinions, right? This is the clip, this is one of them that I'm talking about.
I'm just saying that exclusively you'll never know what a period feels like and the pain that comes along with it, or childbirth, or pregnancy. I'm not trying to.
Let me go ahead and put this. I'm pretty sure you guys heard the gist of it, but I'm just gonna put it back to normal speed.
Diminish your experience, but I do think that this is a struggle that's exclusive to women that we cannot let men diminish.
I am a woman. I was not born a woman. Saying that only women can get periods, men cannot get periods, it excludes a lot of people from your movement.
Okay, so biologically, if you're born as a man, that means that you don't know the
I wasn't
personal.
born as a man, I was born as a baby who was a boy.
So you would say, because I'm a woman.
Okay, so the first clip. The gist of this clip is that this, what I assume is a cisgender woman, is basically stating that, she doesn't want to diminish the trans woman, experience, but, she sees that there's some differences, such as like having a period that cisgender women go through. And the first thing I want to state here is that having a period is not exclusive to women, okay? Transgender men also have periods. That is something that they deal with as well. And they deal with challenges in healthcare when it comes to things like that. So I guess like what that trans woman is trying to say is that the framing you are using is excluding people from your movement. Now, what does that mean? Transgender men also get periods. Intersex women also get periods. Those are the people that they're excluding from their movement. And the framing itself is harmful, and I'll get into that a bit later, but we're going to go into clip number 2.
You would say you and I are the same?
Yeah, just about. Like, categorically, yeah.
Okay.
Of course, there are always differences between, like, individuals, like height, weight, stuff like that, like...
But is there anything fundamentally different than us, between us?
Like... height, hair color, stuff like that.
Nothing else?
Like, 1 or 2, like, features here or there.
Like?
I mean, well, obviously there's the matter of, develop, how the bodies develop, what genitalia people are born with, stuff like that. And
Yeah, I've had 2 children.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a fundamental difference between us. Because I'm a woman. I've had 2 children.
Okay, so clip number 2, essentially it is Caitlin Bennett, who, if you do not know, is a far-right YouTube video maker. She goes on to basically, say like, oh, well, what differences are there between, trans women and cisgender women? And like, The trans woman is thinking of a lot of social things because, I'm going to be honest, those are the things that really affect women in our day-to-day lives. Okay. Like socially, both cisgender and trans women have essentially the same people that want to control our bodies. When it comes to reproductive health care, when it comes to being able to just get health care on our own bodies. If a cisgender woman wants to have a hysterectomy, that can get denied if, she's not married. Like, oh, you should think about your future husband. Trans women, we get told that, we shouldn't have control over our own body to be able to take, hormones and to be able to get things like sex reassignment surgery or facial feminization surgery and other things. Those are things we both deal with, and those aren't, entirely physical. Those are very much social issues that we can come together on. So like, I don't really see a problem with what that person said. They say, like clothing and different things, and it's obvious that this person is nervous, especially because they're being interviewed by a far-right commentator whose goal is to make them look as bad as possible. So you should always take these type of clips from the far-right accounts with a grain of salt, because like, you got to realize it's nervous having someone shove a camera in your face and then start demanding answers about like, what's the differences between a cisgender and trans woman.
Yeah, so in that clip...
Oh, let me go ahead and increase the speed again, because like I said, she repeats things a fair bit here.
It's a woman, a mom of two, basically asking what I'm pretty sure is a trans woman, what the...
Now, I wanted to point this out. You saw this here. She calls this person, let me back up.
Yeah, so in that clip, it's a woman, a mom of two, basically asking what I'm pretty sure is a trans woman.
See, trans man. That was a trans woman. The clip is titled Trans Man because Caitlyn Bennett is a far-right account whose goal is to make trans women look as essentially dumb as possible and to attack us so they can dehumanize us and get rid of our rights. So off the bat, you were accepting this person's framing and also misgendering a transgender woman.
What the differences are between biological women and trans women. Normally you'd think that that would be kind of obvious and easy to state, but this person kind of stumbles over their words and seems to have a very difficult time stating that there are any differences at all between biological women and trans women. And this leads in to like my next like point, right? Because I've seen so many videos like popping up on my feed so often where it's like trans women or white knight cis women stating that there's like no differences between biological women and that trans women are exactly the same as biological women. And respectfully, that's dumb. Like, and then you have like the other end of the spectrum, which is people saying that no, there are differences. And then, people, well, the bigoted end, which are saying that trans women aren't women at all, which I'm also going to address, right? That's also not right. And so I'm going to try to make it short and sweet. And I'm going to draw you up.
Okay, so we're going to comment on what she just said. So she states that like, there's this group essentially of transgender women that try saying that, trans women and cisgender women are the same. Now, if you notice in the video that she showed, the trans woman acknowledges that there's physical differences between cisgender women and trans women. They acknowledged it in the video, and I guarantee you, if you asked a trans woman in your life, if, they think there are physical differences, biologically speaking, between a cisgender woman and a transgender woman, like 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you yes, that there are. So first off, the evidence that you've given, it doesn't back up what you're describing it as. Second, something that, the second clip person was trying to point out, but obviously they're very nervous, is that there's a lot of social things that both cisgender and trans women deal with. Okay. Excuse me. So, like, what I will say are those similarities. Okay. When I go to, the grocery store, for example, I have to be careful of a man. What if they come up to me? What if they think I'm attractive? and they go ahead and assault me. And the thing is you have to realize that when it comes to things like rape or sexual assault, it's not something that largely has to do with what your appearance is. It's just the fact that they, they want to be able to have power over you, and they think you're a woman. That's really all it comes down to. And those are things that we both struggle with. We also struggle with, men trying to control our healthcare that is vitally needed. For me, I need hormones. I need to be able to dress and live as myself, to be happy and be able to be a productive member of society. For cisgender women, I mean, you guys deal with men trying to control your bodies and deny, essential healthcare that can cause you to die or be seriously harmed. And all of these issues and more are things that we can come together on. It's not something that we have to be split apart from.
A picture, right, for all my visual learners. Hopefully it will better help explain a bit better, what I mean and what I'm talking about when I'm explaining these concepts, which I feel like what most people I've talked to would agree with, and it's not some crazy radical concept. So 2 statements, right? Statement number 1, trans women are not biological women. It kind of seems obvious, right? Statement number 2, trans women are women. Yes. Some people would say it's like, well, what do you mean? You just said they aren't women, and then you just said they are. No. They're different. They're different, right? They're different things. Okay. And here's my visual helper, right? Please don't make fun of my handwriting. To help us along, I think maybe this way. I don't fucking know. I don't know how to present things. I don't know what I'm doing. Fucking bear with me, right? So, like I said, I have two statements. Trans women are not biological women. That is just a scientific fact, right? Literally, one is born with male chromosomes, one is born with female chromosomes. Literally 2 different things, right? However, trans women are women. Okay, and so I drew a circle with a label of women with a little smiley face, right? Basically, all in the circle, you have everything that counts as a woman, right? You have biological women. They get their own circle, right? I just said bio women, but I'm not writing all that out. You have, like, intersex women. They have their own circle. I'm running out of ink. That's a tragedy. And you have a whole bunch of others, but also in the circle, for what counts as a woman, right? Or for what we would usually typically consider a woman, you also have trans women. Right? Trans women. Okay, each of these are women. They're all in the circle for women, right? However, a trans woman is not a biological woman, just like a biological woman is not a trans woman, because they have 2 different circles. They're both still equally in the circle for women, right? The exact same amount, both still valid, right? One is not better or worse than the other. However, they are different. They have different circles, different bubbles, like a sub-bubble in the big bubble. You feel me, right? So that's what I mean when I say that trans women are...
So, let's go ahead and go over this bubble chart that she's created. So I gave her a bit of time to speak, just because, like, she has a lot of things to say in this portion of the video, and I wanted you guys to hear it. But essentially the issue I have, she separates cisgender, trans, and intersex women into different categories. And I don't really understand why. So what I am referring to here is the shared struggle that all women deal with. Cisgender women, like I previously said, deal with issues in reproductive health care of men trying to control their bodies, also dealing with misogyny and, men talking down to them and thinking that they're inferior. All those things affect cisgender women. Trans women deal, with things like the misogyny I stated earlier and people talking down to them and trying to control their bodies. That's also something that we deal with. And intersex women, I mean, they deal with people that, from being born when they couldn't even speak or like comprehend what was going on, made decisions on their physical bodies, when it came to surgeries. Like they physically altered them to fit in line with this framework of what they think a person should be. And it doesn't always work out. There are transgender women who were intersex who feel very upset that they were denied the choice to be able to grow up through like a female puberty, for example, and be given the choice to make the choice that they wanted for their bodies. And that struggle of, being treated like, something to be controlled, that you shouldn't have autonomy over your own body, is something we all deal with and can work together on. I'm not saying that, the fact of being transgender or being intersex or being a cisgender woman, for example, are all the same, but there's a lot of shared experiences that we have. So when people, a trans woman says that we're the same as cis women, what we're trying to say is we deal with a lot of similar things that cisgender women deal with. And we want to be included in fighting for those struggles. That's all we're trying to say. We're not trying to take over your space. And on top of that, the framing of biological woman is a harmful framing. And this is what I mean by that. When the man arrived at the hospital with severe abdominal pains, a nurse didn't consider it an emergency, noting that he was obese, had stopped taking blood pressure medicines. In reality, he was pregnant, a transgender man in labor that was about to end in a stillbirth. So this was published in the New England Journal of Medicine. And this person says this is not what happened to this particular individual, but this is an example of what happens to transgender people interacting with the healthcare system. And what that doctor means by that is when transgender people get healthcare, we deal with a system that doesn't think that we exist. For trans women, a lot of trans women get asked things like, when was your last period, or different things. Or we deal with doctors that flat out have no idea what they're doing when it comes to our healthcare. Like, oh, you have headaches? That must be your hormones that are messing up. And with trans men, they need to access essential healthcare, such as, reproductive healthcare, like gynecology appointments, stuff for, giving birth. All those things, and they get denied access to healthcare because people don't know that they exist, and people die because of it. They get hurt because of it, and it is something that happens all the time. Transgender men are largely forgotten in all this wave of transphobia that we've been seeing, and the reason why is it's because of misogyny. Trans women and cisgender women deal with misogyny. With transgender women, we deal with trans misogyny as well, which is just a tiny bit different. But largely what we're dealing with at the end of the day is people that want to control us and also just frankly don't give a crap about our healthcare. Like if you go to a very conservative state, a lot of the women's reproductive healthcare there for women's issues is horrible. And a lot of them don't know how to actually help cisgender women. That's something, that as a trans woman, I deal with people all the time that don't know how to deal with my healthcare. So like the framing that you're using is harmful, it harms transgender men that need to access reproductive healthcare because they don't look like women because they aren't women, they're men. But they still need to access those reproductive services. So like largely these types of bubbles, like your framing to begin with, it already has some problems here.
Are not biological women. In fact, they have two different bubbles. They're two separate things, right? However, trans women are still women because they are still in the big bubble for women, right? They still fall under the women umbrella, right? And so many times I'll see like trans women trying to state that, no, that the exact same thing as biological women. And I've seen a lot more women lately speak out, right, or speak up about how they disagree with this, and I'm one of them because when you or whoever, when we hear, at least me, the people I talk to, when we hear trans women state that they're the exact same thing as biological women, there's no differences, right? Even though there's clearly two separate bubbles, right? It feels like you're trying to erase our bubble, right? And pretend that it doesn't exist, right? It feels like
So what I'm going to say about this is like, there's she says there's a lot of cisgender women that want to speak out. And I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of cisgender women that are very bigoted. Okay. And here's what I'm going to, pull some examples for that. So when it comes to bisexuality, for example, this isn't something that is purely gender based, of course. But like there's a lot of cisgender women that would not date a bisexual man, even if they're straight, because they're like, oh, well, like you're gay, you've done X, Y, and Z, or like they don't trust them because they like the same sex. Like it doesn't make any sense. And there's also a lot of cisgender women that treat trans women like a gay best friend. And like us as trans women, we're very well aware when people treat us that way and don't see us as women. It's very obvious. And I can tell you, because I've been out for over 5 years now, and transitioned for over 5 years, that that's the way that they treat us. A lot of cisgender women treat us like gay best friends. And the people that I do find that do treat us as equals, as you know, as women, they don't really have a problem with anything that you're saying here. Like if I said I'm the same, you know, me as a woman is the same as you as a woman, I don't think any of them would really care all that much, because they know that when it comes down to it, I'm going to be fighting for their rights as well as they're going to be fighting for mine. So like the wording of everything doesn't really matter to them.
You're kind of trying to like take over, kind of like invade our space, right? Not the big space for bubble, like for women, right? Because you're already in that one. There's no invading necessary. Right? You're already in the bubble for women, right? Trans women are women. However, when people state that trans women are the exact same as biological women, it feels like you're trying to invade our little personal bubble that we have. That's just for us. It feels like you're trying to take over and like erase, you know, biological women, and that doesn't feel good, right? Because just because they're different does not mean that one is better than the other. Biological women are not more of a under the, they're not more authentically woman than a trans woman or an intersex woman just because they're a biological woman, right? And it all goes for, you know, this and vice versa, right? So it's kind of upsetting when one group or whatever tries to basically invade our little bubble that is unique to us and to biological women and to our experiences that only biological women will ever experience, right? And pretend that like there's no differences, right? It feels like you're trying to erase us and force us out of our little bubble that's unique to just us. And the thing that drives me nuts about this, right, is because sometimes like I feel like, and again, this is probably most likely the loud minority, because most, like, let's be honest, most trans people just want to exist in peace. I have not had enough caffeine, dude. Like most trans people just want to be happy in their lives, right? But it is, I feel like that is probably the loud minority, which is trying to state that, you know, trans women are the exact same as biological women. Because most people probably know that that's goofy, right? That's silly. Like, that's dumb. You know, it's literally blatantly not true. But also, what confuses me whenever they try to do that, because also I'm going back to my picture, right? In the process of, you know, a trans woman stating that they are exactly the same as biological women and that there's no difference, right? Not only are you kind of muddying the waters on our circle, you're also like erasing yours, because you can't be a biological woman and a trans woman at the same time. So if you're trying to say that trans women are the exact same as biological women, you're invalidating and completely erasing your lived experience as a trans woman.
Okay, so what she's saying here, just to kind of reframe what she said, is that trans women, by saying we are the same as cis women, that we are erasing their bubble and our own bubble. Essentially saying that we're trying to muddy the waters. What I'm going to say here first is she said the loud minority. Girl, you're using clips from like far right conservative accounts whose goal is to make trans people look as bad as possible. The second clip, that person was extremely nervous in their wording, but it was very obvious that what they were talking about in the beginning was that the social, you know, things that both cisgender and trans women deal with are largely the same. You know, when it comes to, you know, misogyny affecting us both, and the way that men treat us and the way our rights, you know, are being dealt with. And she even admits at the end of that clip, the trans woman does, that yes, there's genitalia differences and, you know, like biological differences. So like you don't have any examples to really back up what you're saying here. And you should be thinking critically as well, and realizing that what you're pulling from is someone that doesn't agree with anything you're saying here. They don't think that trans women are women. They also probably don't think that intersex women are women with the way that they frame things. They think it's black and white, XX and XY. There are XY cisgender women that have given birth that don't fit into this, you know, black and white definition of sex that people have on the right. So you need to think critically and realize that these people that, you know, that you're pulling clips from, they're doing it maliciously, to make people dehumanize trans people, and just to, you know, justify action against us.
Right? Like we both have different experiences, different lived experiences that, you know, biological women will have to deal with, you know, like growing up as a little girl, you know, stranger danger, you know, everything, just the lived experience growing up, biologically female, you know, periods, all that other stuff that only biological women will experience and that will go through. It's unique to us. That's a lived.
So this point is bad. Growing up as girls. So like trans women, we're forced to live as boys and grow up when we're girls, right? We're forced into a social group that we don't align with, and that we hear things that men say behind when women aren't around that disgust us to our core, and make us scared when we transition because we know very well how men treat women. And like, we're girls that were forced to be something we were not, and we're beaten and kicked out of our homes for doing so, largely because, men see women as lesser. They see the idea of what they see as a man trying to become a woman. It doesn't make sense in their brain because they see what a man is as a pedestal. And they're like, why would someone step down from their privilege to become a woman? That doesn't compute in their brain. So they get violent, because what they see is someone trying to become something that they despise. And what that is women. They just despise women. And because of that, trans women deal with things like higher rates of sexual assault and violence than cisgender women do, per capita. And so stranger danger is more real to us than it is to you. When I go out in public, I'm currently in Florida at the moment, I've been chased to my car and called slurs. I have people that give me horrible looks. I've had people that have groped me in public. And all of those things are things that I've dealt with, but that's also things that cisgender women have also dealt with. Okay. There are cisgender women that have been kicked out of their homes because their dad is a raging misogynist. There's cisgender women that have also dealt with sexual assault and violence and being beaten and chased to their car and all of the things that I've experienced. And those things are things that a lot of women in general deal with. It is not exclusive to cisgender women. So what is this bubble that we as trans women are erasing from you? Like the fact that you are female and you have, female reproductive organs. Like, I'm sorry, that's not exclusive to biological women. Trans men also have, they grow up with those organs as well. And they have issues when it comes to periods and being raised as girls like you do, but they have different experiences in how they viewed the world, and that's fine. But largely, the issues that they're dealing with also, align with the fight for, our rights. So, like, I don't understand the purpose of what you're saying here. Like, what is this bubble that we are invading? What is this space that we are taking over? Because you say this a lot, even later in the video, that trans women are taking your space away. What space are you referring to? Because, like, is it a bathroom? Like, I go in there to use the restroom and leave. That's it. I don't see how that's an invasion. So, like, I don't understand really what we're messing up here.
A lived experience that's unique to biological women. Just like trans women have a completely unique experience with like transitioning and then growing up with gender dysphoria, that's experiences that are unique to you or to a trans woman that biological women or any other circle in here is not going to ever be able to understand. That's unique to your circle. And trying to like invade other circles, right, or pretend that one is the other is only going to sabotage both of our lived experiences, right? And so that's the thing. It's like, why? I don't understand why. The thing now seems to be pretending that like there's no differences, which shouldn't, like, hasn't the goal always been to celebrate our differences? It really seems.
So, once again, she's accepting the framing that this right-wing account has put forward, okay? And when trans women are saying that we're the same as cis women, we're saying that, like, we're women, and as women, we deal with men that look down on us. We deal on men that hurt us physically and try to assault us. Those are things that we deal with, and as women, we need to stand together and unite rather than be pushed aside by, like, petty differences. Like, I don't know, like, you really want to be referred to as, like, a biological woman when, like, it adversely affects trans men in healthcare? And it also affects trans women trying to get healthcare, as a lot of them are mistaken for cis women and have just very inadequate doctors that have no idea what they're doing. It just doesn't make sense.
Like, trans women's biggest enemy is other trans women sometimes. Because, I mean, like I said.
So, this point here, in my opinion, is misogynistic. And the reason why I'm going to say that is when a trans woman does something wrong, it's placed on the entirety of trans woman. You know, like I deal with repercussions because of something someone else did. And cisgender women, you guys also get treated like that too. Okay? Men grow up and they get taught this misogynist framework that they have to think through, and basically that they're better than women, and they look at little things that they see as cisgender women doing wrong, and that piles up and they think that of all women. For example, the recent Olympics, Donald Trump was jokingly laughing that he had to reluctantly invite the women's US hockey team, which by the way has won more medals in like the last like 30 years than I think it was like the last 60 for the men's hockey team. And on top of that, 8 out of the 12 medals, gold medals at the Olympics, were won by women. But still, they were laughing and being like, "Oh, we'll reluctantly invite those women," and it's because they have all of these little things piled up that they use to justify their hatred of women and to see you guys as lesser. It's something we both deal with, so it's not a framing, in my opinion, that you should be using.
You have, it's all X'd out now, but you have your own unique lived experience that is completely unique to you as a trans woman, right? That nobody else is going to be able to understand or relate to because it's unique to you being trans, right? And you shouldn't we be like celebrating our differences, or shouldn't you be proud to be trans? Like have like pride in like who you are and your lived experience. And by
Girl, we have Pride Month. There's an entire month where people all over the country celebrate their pride. And there's also a lot of cisgender women that go to Pride all the time that celebrate their own pride. So like that already exists.
pretending that you're not trans, that there's no such thing as trans women and biological women, that you're exactly the same thing as us, right? Isn't that like...
If you ask a trans woman if biologically there are differences between you as a cisgender woman and me as a trans woman, I'm telling you that like 9 out of 10 people will tell you, sure, there's biological differences between me and you. So like I don't know what this obsession is.
like completely invalidating your lived experience as being trans. Like, how can you be proud to be trans if you're pretending that being trans isn't a thing? That it like doesn't...
We know that being trans is a thing. Like, we're constantly reminded by society that they see us as men and that we have a male body. That's something we see every day, and it's something that wears down on transgender women so much so that people harm or they kill themselves because of it. So like what reality are you in where you think that trans women aren't aware of the fact that we're trans?
Doesn't exist, because that's effectively what they're doing, right? By pretending that there's no differences between the two. You're erasing your own experience. You're eradicating your own bubble by saying that trans women are biological women. It's like, why are you trying to erase your own bubble, right? Your own uniqueness, experiences that are completely unique to you being trans, that nobody else is going to be able to relate to except other trans people, right? Like, why are you trying to like erase your bubble and pretend that it isn't there? Like, shouldn't we be...
Okay, she's repeating a lot, so I'm going to skip ahead.
Because we're different, and that's not a bad thing. Doesn't make one any more of a woman than the other, right? We can all still be in the bubble that encompasses women, and yet have our own little separate sub-bubbles. We just don't appreciate other people trying to come in and pretend, like, invade our space or our sub-bubble, like a little...
Invade our space, like, again, like, what space are we invading here by saying that we're just as much as of a woman as you are? What space are we invading here? And how are we erasing us being trans by saying that we deal with largely the same things that cis women do? It's a fact that we do. We deal with healthcare being denied. We deal with plenty of other things that I've mentioned multiple times in this video. So like what are you talking about?
Little bubble for women, for biological women, and pretending like our bubble isn't a thing, right? It's like, it feels like you're like invading our space and then like kicking us out of it. It doesn't feel good, and I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to that. So yeah, like that's my piece on that. I think that the statement that trans women are not biological women and trans women are women can exist at the same time and both equally.
It can exist at the same time. And the reason why that they're incompatible with each other is because you're denying the existence of trans men with your statement. Trans men are not biological women. They are men. Like a lot of trans men grow up female, sure, but they're not women. They still need access to things like gynecology and, reproductive health care in general and pregnancy health care, but they're not women. So when you use that framing, you harm them in trying to get access to those services. So I guess to sort of summarize, because her video is essentially over here, is one, trans women are not trying to say that there are zero differences between a cisgender woman and a trans woman. When trans women say that we are the same as cis women, we're saying that we're both women. And, you know, we both deal with experiences very similarly of, you know, men trying to control our bodies, etc. That's what we're talking about here. And what you're focused on is you know, you're essentially so afraid of trans women taking over your little bubble that you've created for yourself. You're ignoring the fact that there are several things that we can come together on and fight for together. I will gladly fight for cisgender women's rights to have an abortion, to have access to healthcare, because those are essential services that people in my life need to access to be healthy and to live. You know, the same way I imagine you might have some trans friends that need things like hormones or surgeries and different things. And those are things we can come together on and fight for. I think that there's, you know, I don't really see what the issue you're bringing up is. It just seems like you're taking some videos that are framed in a right-wing perspective, and trying to jobble them together into this larger point that you're making. But the evidence that you are presenting just doesn't back up what you're saying. Now, I do want to say, I don't think that this person is like transphobic. I don't think that they hate trans people or anything of that nature. I just disagree with them on some points. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and thank you for watching.